Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to another weekly reading check-in. So I have a couple of updates. Actually, I just have one main update. And I think that what we're going to do is we're going to move these weekly check-ins to be more of like a bi-weekly thing, maybe like a mid-month check-in kind of a thing. Doing one every single week, honestly, I read a decent amount, but I just don't finish a book every single week enough that I think that this is really contributing very much. So I think that what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to like a mid-month update so that I can talk about the things that I read halfway through the month, and then I'll have obviously my monthly wrap-up at the end of the month / beginning of the following month to tell you guys about all of the stuff that happened in between. I think that that might be the best format for me going forward because I am trying to do a couple of, I don't know, they're not really secret, not necessarily secret TBR vlogs, but themed reading vlogs, and I'd like to introduce those, and doing a weekly update every single week on top of doing like the vlogs every once in a while. That's just a lot of me that I don't think any of you guys necessarily asked for. So we're gonna move these to mid-monthly. Obviously this is not a mid-month one, but I think that this is a good place for me to tell you what the plan is going forward with these weekly reading check-ins. So that being said, not only this week am I going to talk about all of the stuff that I managed to read last week, but I am going to do a little bit of a mini haul because I have a couple of new things that I want to show you guys in addition to another Hello Lovely package that I wanted to open on camera for you, so let's just jump right into those first. One of the most important things that just came in over the last couple of weeks is I wanted to tell you guys that I finally managed to get my hands on the entire trilogy for the Queens of Renthia. I've talked about Queens of Renthia on my channel multiple times before because I have read the first two books. You can thank Jessie over at The Bookish Mom for putting these on my radar and generally getting me interested in them because they are fantastic. Queen of Blood and The Reluctant Queen were so good, and I hadn't read Queen of Sorrow yet mostly because I had been listening to the audiobooks on Scribd, and the third book is not on Scribd, but now I have a physical copy that I managed to get the entire trilogy. You all can appreciate this. I managed to get the entire trilogy used, secondhand, whatever, for $15 total. That's it. How am I supposed to pass up a deal like that? So yeah, these are here now. I will finally be able to move on to the third book in the series, and I'm super excited to finally have my hands on these books because I really did enjoy the first two so much. The next two are just like a fun little addition. We sometimes get free things at work randomly, and this was weirdly one of the things that was brought in. There were multiple copies of both of these, and I am the biggest nerd in my entire workplace, and so immediately when these came in, everybody was like, oh, you gotta give at least some of them to her. So I ended up with a copy of New Avengers, a Marvel Comics event, Civil War. I've talked on my channel, I haven't read very much of the Marvel Comics yet. I have started to read a couple of them, but yeah, now I have this. I literally know nothing about this other than like what I have seen in the movies, so I don't know if this is adapted from the movies or this is the actual comic that came first, but I'll let you know when I get to it because I am a big Marvel nerd. We all know that here on this channel. I love the MCU very much. So yeah, that's one of the things that came in. And I am a nerd in general, which means that I was also excited to get a copy of Star Wars The Force Awakens. This is by Chuck Wendig, and I think that it's the graphic novel of The Force Awakens. I literally, I haven't even taken it out of the plastic yet. I'm not as big of a Star Wars nerd as I am other things. John really is more into Star Wars than I am. But, yeah, I have a copy of this now. I'm pretty sure this is a graphic novel, adaptation of the movie. So that's one of the things that I got. And then the last thing I wanted to show you guys before I jump into the Hello Lovely unpackaging is I did get my hands on a copy of Dawn Shard by Brandon Sanderson. Honestly, I'm just trying to get physical copies of all of my favorite Sanderson books, which is everything that Sanderson has written at this point. So I needed a copy of Dawn Shard, obviously. I think the only things that I really have left are Warbreaker, Mistborn Era 2, and Arcanum Unbounded. Those are the only three physical copies that I still need. Well, the only three things that I still need from the Cosmere. I have hard copies of literally everything else. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to keep going. And I don't love that this is so tiny. I don't think that there were really any other options. This is like one of the only ways that they really printed Dawn Shard. I don't know how I'm going to display it so that it looks normal next to all of my other Cosmere things, but we'll figure it out, I guess. Okay, and then the very last thing is one of my rep packages from Hello Lovely. This is their very first Trope of the Month box. So this is like the beginning of a new series that they're doing where they pick a certain romance trope every single month and they send out a book that pertains to that trope, and a little something is included in the envelope also that goes along with the trope or the book specifically. I don't really know. I think that this one was new adult sports romance. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that that's what this first month was. Okay, so I'm pulling it out so you guys see it first. Oh, and it's in a thing. And, okay. Well, I still can't see it. So, it comes wrapped in tissue paper. It says Trope of the Month on the front. And the book is Tutoring the Player by Rebecca Genshak, I think. Campus Wallflowers, Book 1. I have not heard of either this author or this series. Let me open it really quick so you guys don't have to deal with all of the unwrapping on camera. 1 second. Okay, so it looks like this, and it's Tutoring the Player, and it is Rebecca Genshak. I really hope I'm saying that right. And it also comes with this bookmark that says, what would it take for a campus wallflower to climb the fence and be seen? So it says, I have a type, I love the good guy, responsible and stable, safe. When a beer-drinking, quick-witted, tattooed hockey player asks me to tutor him, I'm suddenly thrust into the world of bad boys and bad decisions. Jordan has a reputation on campus. He's an infamous player who doesn't take anything seriously except hockey and partying, but he gives me butterflies. I'm a wallflower, tutoring Valley University's hottest player. I love sports romances, and I love college sports romances. I'm pretty excited. I might actually move this onto my TBR for this month. We shall see. I have a lot of Hello Lovely books that I need to be reading, guys. I've gotten so many boxes from them over the last couple of weeks. You've seen my unboxing videos, so I need to get a move on and read all of those as soon as I can. Alright, so let's jump into the books that I managed to read this week, or make progress on this week, or whatever. The first of which, I think that I talked about in last week's weekly reading check-in, was A Forgery of Roses by Jessica S. Olsen. The cover is gorgeous. I'll pop it up over here so you guys can see it. This is an ARC that I had received off of NetGalley, and it was good. It was okay. I ended up giving it 3 stars, and I think that it just wasn't really written for me. I don't think that the writing style necessarily was for me. I don't think that the age range was necessarily for me. I know that I have read a lot of YA and I've liked a lot of YA. This was not necessarily one of those. I just think that it was a little bit young reading. I didn't really love the characters. I didn't feel any connection with them or the decisions that they made. Maeve, I think, is the main character. She was reckless. I don't really like a lot of the choices that she made throughout, and I get it, but, like, at the same time, I don't know. The twist was a surprise to me, I will give it that. There was a twist to the story, and I didn't see it coming, but that is kind of a theme of a lot of my reading. I don't necessarily see the twist coming. Maybe I'm just an oblivious reader. But, yeah, I ended up giving it 3 stars. I think that if you like YA fantasy, if you were just maybe getting into YA fantasy, or if you are a little bit on the younger side of reading YA or that doesn't bother you, then you would probably like this. It was very art heavy, painting specifically, and that was like a main theme throughout the entire thing because that is her power, that is the main power. The magic system in this YA fantasy is like artists and paintings and things like that. So I learned a lot about it. I read a lot about it. I didn't necessarily connect with it because it's not something that I can relate to, but I think that if you have a background in art or if you have an interest in art, that might be something that you can connect to with it. It just didn't really work for me. But it was okay. I think that there's definitely people out there that would enjoy it. I just really wasn't one of them. I was kind of skim reading a lot of it. The next book that I read was one of the free books that I got in my previous Hello Lovely box. That is Sins of the Syndicate by Lexi James. I really liked this. But I ended up giving it 3 stars because it was one of those Kindle books that takes you to the climax. I mean, it was like maybe 150, maybe 200 pages long at the absolute most, and it takes you to the climax of what would be a normal romance novel and cuts off and makes you go and buy the next one, which, by the way, is not out yet. That is a pet peeve of mine. I know that there's a lot of people that doesn't bother, but I prefer that if I'm going to have a book, I would like to read that book in its entirety. I don't like it when the plot feels like it's been cut in half just for the sake of cutting it in half. This was not a fully fleshed out novel with a cliffhanger ending, which is its own thing that bothers me. You guys know that, but this was not that. It literally just felt like, I'm sure you guys have read them on Kindle or Kindle Unlimited before too, where they write a book and literally just cut it down the middle. I don't know if that's for the sake of selling multiple books. I don't really know why, but that's not my favorite thing in the entire world, and that's what happened. I was really getting invested into the story of this, which, by the way, I haven't even talked about. I don't necessarily remember the characters' names, I'm sorry guys, but it was bodyguard meets mafia romance meets lost heir trope. Like, it was all of those things, and those are all of my trigger words for a lot of romances. I love lost heir, I love bodyguard. I am now learning that I really love mafia romance. And it was a great story up until that ending, which I did not realize it was going to just cut off. I was ready for all of the stuff to happen, and nothing happened. The general plot is that the main character is a girl who has made a living working in not necessarily nursing homes, but as like a caretaker in homes for people that can't take care of themselves necessarily. So she connects with them, and she has a strong attachment to it because I think that's how her mom passed away. And one of those days that she's working there, somebody comes and brings her a letter, and it's literally just a picture of her mom with a man that she doesn't recognize. She's never known her father, and it kind of sets her off to try and figure out who her father is. While she's doing so, she travels to Chicago, and she kind of comes into contact with this guy who she's super attracted to, and they end up going out and having a one-night fling. And the next day she realizes that he is actually the head of the security for her long-lost family that she's trying to ingratiate herself into, and he thinks that she's trying to worm her way into the family, and she thinks that he's just a dick, and it was great. I mean, it was enemies to lovers after they were already lovers kind of a thing, and it was great, and then it just ended. So that's why it ended up getting 3 stars for me. And the next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was that I finally finished The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. I really loved this. I'm not going to go too in-depth on my thoughts on this because I do have kind of a reading vlog where I'm talking about this, so I'm not gonna really go into that, but I gave this 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. There were some slow bits, as it usually goes for John Gwynne. There were some really cascading, avalanche-y moments at the end that I really, really enjoyed. Orca and Varg continue to be my absolute favorite points of view from him. Elvar, again, not so much, just like in the first book. There were a couple new points of view that I'm not going to talk about in case you haven't read The Shadow of the Gods, but yeah, I really liked it, 5 stars, and I cannot wait for book 3 in the series, and you guys definitely should go and pick up The Hunger of the Gods if you have read Shadow of the Gods already. I believe it comes out later this month. And then the last book to talk about is that I just started Arcanum Unbounded by Brandon Sanderson. I just started this last night, I think. Obviously, this is his short story collection in the Cosmere, and a lot of them I've already read, so it was like a real treat for me to go back and get to reread Emperor's Soul. Interestingly, it was a bit of a treat for me to go back and reread The Secret History, which I really did not like the first time that I read it. I didn't enjoy The Secret History, I didn't like what it added into Mistborn, but this time I did. This time I actually really liked it a lot more than I did the first time, so I can't wait to see where the rest of these short stories are gonna go. I'm about halfway through it. But yeah, I'll let you guys know when I finish Arcanum Unbounded and give you guys my thoughts on a lot of the short stories. Honestly, rereading The Emperor's Soul was my favorite part of the entire thing, and it was the first short story in it, so I don't know that anything's really going to top it, and I would reread that short story over and over and over again because I seriously enjoy it that much. But yeah, that is all of the books that I have read or am currently reading. Like I said, I'm gonna start moving these to like a mid-monthly update kind of a format, so you guys maybe will see me in a couple of weeks doing another one of these. Don't forget to go down into the comments and let me know what you guys have been reading this week, what you've liked, what you've hated, all of that stuff. And while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out my channel, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye!